They say the city remembers everything: the laughter, the slow-building resentments, the quiet pride, and the sudden burst of rage in the night that leaves a street corner changed forever. Johannesburg had always remembered me as a joke, and I remembered every echo of that, down to the grainy cell phone video that went viral, the faces flickering in the glare of a projector as my dream was held up for ridicule, and the burn of humiliation spreading across my chest like a bruise. That was the day my name became a punchline in the city that raised me. Years later, as I drove in under a pale winter sky, braided jacaranda shadows shivering across the tarmac, I wondered if the city could remember me differently. But let me start with the day it all came undone. I was standing on the stage in the St. Martin's Community Hall, sweating through the collar of an old pressed shirt, voice already hoarse. My PowerPoint flicked behind me. A scatter of DNA strands, clusters of algorithmic diagrams, a future in which biotech and AI work together to analyze and eradicate entire families of inherited diseases. All I needed, was a little seed funding, a chance to build my lab. Not the dreams of a 16-year-old scribbling patents on scrap paper, but real, sober science already half-realized in university notebooks. They watched half bored, half mocking. I saw my Uncle Jimmy, arms crossed and already wearing his "this one again" face, echoes of whispers, always dreaming, never working. But it was Sibengile, my cousin, who shot the video that changed everything. Sizwe, she called from the second row, voiceover bright. Are you going to cure Grandpa's gout with your robots? Maybe get them to buy bread when you don't have a cent, the hall roared. Someone behind her whooped and pressed record. I tried not to flinch, not gout, but sickle cell, cystic fibrosis, even some cancers. But they weren't listening anymore. My slides blurred under the cheap projector. My hands shook. Listen. If we build this now, we can. They never let me finish. Only later that night did I see the video, looped endlessly, titled Sizwe's Sci-Fi Snake Oil. My voice sounded higher, desperate, as I pleaded for a chance. Next came the comments from distant cousins, old classmates, even some I barely remembered from the neighborhood. Not everyone can be Elon Musk, boy. Better go back to accounting. Maybe his robots will find him a real job. I blocked and muted, but I couldn't keep out the laughter drifting through WhatsApp groups, gifs of cartoon robots, memes about Sizwe's lab of lies. My family chat was silent except for Tandy, my little sister, who sent a single embarrassed sorry about today. By the end of the week, my dad stopped meeting my eyes at the supper table. My funding fell through without community support. I finished my degree and fled, far enough away in kilometers but not in memory. In Switzerland, cities run like clockwork and the air tastes perpetually of minerals and snowmelt. I learned to speak in plain, clipped English, trading my Zulu and Sotho for efficient syllables. I buried my embarrassment in data sets, in gene sequences, in neural models whose logic was as precise as star maps. I worked under Dr. Nygaard, an old Dane who cared only for results and never for dreams. He watched me fail again and again as I tried to marry my algorithms with the unpredictability of living cells. I stayed late, ate instant noodles, let my birth tongue rust away at the gym or lying awake at 2 in the morning. My hands learned patience. My mind learned the bitter flavor of self-doubt and the strange, metallic aftertaste of defiance. We don't do science for applause, Nygaard told me one night, not unkindly, peering over his glasses as cell cultures whirred in their baths. We do it because the puzzle is beautiful. He didn't understand the difference, not really in Geneva. No one cared who my family was or what old grudges a city carried. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that dark hall and Sibengile's grin. Every time a project was published, I imagined what it would mean to take it home. Years passed. We cracked the code for dynamic AI-driven gene editing, first in flies, then rabbits, and finally, after endless paperwork, in human cell lines carrying hereditary sickle cell mutations. I published and the paper moved through the world with its own quiet gravity. I waited, but the emails were distant, abstract, conferences in Boston, partnerships in Singapore, not Johannesburg. My family sent clipped Christmas messages as if science was a phase of adolescence and not the shape of my entire soul. Until the phone call 5 years after I left, it was Tandy. Her voice, older but familiar, shook as she explained. Uncle Jumi's daughter, Yanda, had been diagnosed. Sickle cell. The irony was bitter, the very condition I'd begged the community to help me tackle. We don't know what to do, Tandy whispered. They say there's something in Europe. Some new treatment. She couldn't ask, but she didn't have to. Her voice was hope, and the hope was heavy. I went to my supervisor 2 days later carrying a folder filled with preliminary protocols and a wild, anxious resolve. Nygaard looked at me long, then nodded. Call the hospital, we'll make it happen. I hadn't seen home in half a decade. It met me at the gates with the red dust of winter, the cough of taxis, the metallic song of minibus engines. My heart thrummed in my throat as I stood outside the glass doors of Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, clutching my lab duffel and feeling, for all the world, like an overgrown child waiting to give a school oral. Every step inside was half terror, half relief. Yanda was small and fierce-eyed, the sickle cell already eating at her energy, knuckles pressed to her palm, face pale in the clinical light. Auntie Lindio sat beside her, worry lines deep as canyons. Uncle Jumi hovered by the corridor, his voice lowered as if he could scare death away with enough serious talk. They didn't laugh when I walked in. Jumi flinched, but Lindio caught my hand, squeezed until my bones creaked. If you can help her, Sizwe, anything. Desperation does things that mockery cannot. The hospital smelled of bleach and warm bodies. For days I worked with local doctors, translating my research, explaining the treatment protocol, arguing with administrators for permission, importing the custom vectors for the gene therapy, checking and double-checking every step. At night Tandy brought me pap and chicken and the city's lights shimmered in the cold air like lost coins. Word spread. Journalists came, noses twitching for a local boy makes good story. But the memory of being the butt of every joke made me wary. I ignored emails, blocked old numbers. I focused on Yanda. The day came. Yanda lay in the treatment wing, swaddled in hospital blankets, her blood loaded with vectors carrying my stitched-together code, the AI models navigating the treacherous currents of her DNA, seeking and repairing the sickled genes. It was not a silver bullet, but it was hope, and in the silent hours after, even Uncle Jumi took my hand and held it, tears in his eyes. Thank you, son, he whispered, voice breaking. The results trickled in. Yanda's blood responded. Lab values shifted, then stabilized. The hospital called national media. Photos were taken, Yanda smiling, me in lab coat, Jumi crying into his hands. I should have left then. Some part of me wanted nothing but escape. But something knotted in my chest, taut and urgent, a need to show more than gratitude, something that burned with the old humiliation but glimmered now with something new. 2 weeks later the prize came. The international press called it revolutionary, investors clamored, emails jammed my inbox, but Johannesburg's response was slow, skeptical. I heard that the old jokes were dusted off again in WhatsApp groups. Sizwe's luck, not his science, someone wrote. I called Tandy. One more time, I said, can you get the family together, not just Jumi and Lindio, everyone? She hesitated but agreed. The St. Martin's Hall felt smaller, its plastic chairs ghostly in the afternoon light. The echoes of old laughter still haunted the corners. My family trickled in first, Tandy nervous at the side, my mother quiet but proud. Neighbors arrived in clusters, some out of curiosity, others out of habit. Even Sibengal came, phone ready, already recording, but her eyes wary. I stood before them again, slides projected with the same flicker as years ago, but this time the backdrop was not theories. It was Yanda, smiling weakly but alive, her hematology charts blooming green. Slides toggled between images of mutated blood cells and the corrected ones, diagrams replaced by photographs, press clippings, video of international news anchors. When I looked up, the room was silent, no laughter, just the electric charge of history shifting. This, I said quiet, is not just biotech or algorithms, it's a chance for us to build something that belongs to all of us. My technology is now licensed across Europe and America, but my first patient, my first test was for my family, for Yanda. The slide changed, video footage. Yanda sitting upright, unwrapping a sweet, grinning for the camera. The screen showed the printout, no SICKLINGDETCTD. At the back of the hall, someone gasped. Up front, Uncle Jumi sobbed, not the silent grief of before, but a wail of relief. Lindio folded her hands and prayed aloud. A shudder rippled through the group, disbelief shifting to awe. People flooded me, hugs, apologies tumbling out, hands grabbing for mine. I was wrong, Sizwe, Sibengal said, pressing my shoulder, trembling. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. My voice shook, but I held her gaze. You made me fight harder, Sibo. I have not forgotten, but I forgive you. They pressed forward with questions. Could I treat more children? Would I train others? Distant relatives brought photos of sick kids, cousins, neighbors. As the clamor built, Tandy squeezed through and hugged me, whispering, they're proud now. I held her tight, smelling cocoa butter and home. In the months that followed, I became the name people quoted, the local hero from WhatsApp joke to legend in half a year. My tech became a government flagship project, new clinics sprouting up to deploy my therapy protocols. I trained local scientists, leading workshops where kids mimicked my accent and begged for selfies. Newspapers ran feature spreads, from laughter to lifesaver. But the city herself seemed unchanged, busy, brash, indifferent. On Saturday mornings, I would walk through Hillbrow, past the packed shebeens and beggars hawking cell phone chargers, and hear snippets of my story, see faces nodding, sometimes with awe, sometimes with envy. That bruised place in my chest healed slow, but it did heal. My father greeted me with hugs now, pride unconcealed. I tried to keep my feet on the ground, but sometimes I replayed the old video, dared myself to look at my younger, desperate face, the one that trembled but would not run. I did not hate those who taunted me, I could see their fear now, the deep wariness of any hope that dared to burn too bright. One day, years from that first viral ridicule, in the same neighborhood cafe where old men played dominoes and girls sold biltong outside, I ran into Sibengile. She had aged, lines etched deep, but her eyes were gentle. "You're not angry anymore, are you?" I shook my head. "No, I wouldn't be here without it." She looked away, blinking. "Some of us couldn't imagine what you saw. Maybe we were scared to believe." I thought of all the nights in Switzerland, lit only by the glow of Petri dishes and cruel memory. "Belief is hardest where hope is rare," I said gently. She nodded, and the air between us felt light, clean for the first time. There are ways humiliation carves you. There are also ways it prunes back the dead wood, lets something new reach for the sun. My work is not finished. There are new problems, harder puzzles, and the city remains a place of storms and stubborn memory. But I stand still in its heart, no longer mocked, and when the jacarandas bloom and the children run through clouds of purple petals, sometimes, just sometimes, I catch my own name in the air, shaped not by scorn but by wonder. And if Johannesburg remembers everything, then now at last, I am part of the memory worth keeping.